So the second thing I would like to ask is about specifically about your playing, because we're talking during this course, we're talking about the development of the personality, the musical personality, right? The own voice. And as a composer and as a trumpet player, you definitely got there. Everybody knows that. And I would like to ask you if you checked something specifically that put you there, or like someone that you met over the past years, or whatever element that you can tell us about, like how did you get to this, first of all, very modern and contemporary way of composing, and specifically also about all the lines, all the solos, great solos, and the sound you achieved. If there was something or someone you've checked or you got in touch that helped you to open that kind of door and then focus on some specific direction or something like that.
Well, to me, composition, improvisation, and sound is absolutely connected things. Composition cannot be without having good enough sound on your instrument. At the same time, you cannot improvise without good sound. But once you can improvise a little bit, you have some ideas, one idea after another, which leads you to composition. So sound, improvisation, composition. That's my progression. That's how I think about composition. But I want to start with again from the earlier years. I remember my transition from classical trumpet player, which I started as a classical player, to jazz was introduction to one of the genius, the most great trumpet player on earth in the past, Lee Morgan. I heard a tape of Lee Morgan and I was blown away completely. I was in a summer camp, I was 15 years old, and back in Soviet Union we didn't have access to jazz at all. But it was a coincidence. One of our teachers had a compilation of great jazz songs, which was recorded on a cassette tape, a very, very old funky cassette tape. And one of the songs of this compilation was Sidewinder by Lee Morgan. Some magic happened when I heard this song for the first time. I don't know how, I don't know what happened, but I completely was stunned. I was completely blown away. At that point, I didn't know how to read music, jazz music. I don't know how many beats in a bar. I didn't know nothing except maybe a little bit Dixieland or some stuff like that. But something moved inside of me and I recognized something which I couldn't understand. That's what my first introduction to jazz. Sidewinder, Lee Morgan, which gradually opened more and more energy to continue to explore some more jazz. After this little song of Lee Morgan, Sidewinder, I decided to transfer my education from my small hometown Yaroslavl to Moscow, which used to be, it's called pub department, not the jazz department, but pub department, but everybody played jazz. And of course, by being accepted in this college, the Moscow college, I had a lot more access to jazz. It was a lot of recordings. Some older generation musicians had a lot of recording which they shared with us. And later, you know what happened. A few years later, I was accepted to a small competition. I'm talking about 6 years later. Yeah, about 6 years later. And I started hanging with an amazing musician of New York, as I mentioned in the past. Scott Colley, Chris Potter, David Bainey, Adam Rogers, and many more, who introduced me to beautiful style of music, some modern jazz, some Brazilian music, which had a huge impact on in my music on a certain way. They introduced me to Ivan Lins, Tanina Horta, and Milton Nascimento, and Egberto Gismonti. I discovered this album when Egberto Gismonti, Charlie Haydn, and Jan Garbarek play together and create something magical. So all those influences adds up together, and I start slowly understand what is my style, what is my voice in this genre. Of course, with a big help of Mingus band people, with big help of Dave Holland band people, again with huge help of my friends who I mentioned just now, with huge help of inspiration from Michael Brecker. Altogether, it was very obvious for me. I clearly see which direction I want to go musically. So by 1997, 1998, I couldn't play yet as good as I imagined, let's say it this way. But I already clearly know which direction I want to go stylistically. And basically I start practicing the right way. I start listen advices of those guys. Just listen yourself. Don't forget tradition. Never forget tradition. If you're stuck somewhere, always go back to tradition, bebop. And I never forget tradition because, first of all, I love it so much. I love to listen early Miles Davis and Lee Morgan, and I listen to this song over and over again, Sidewinder, and I still learn so much. And basically, every time I stuck with something, with some ideas, it feels like it doesn't go anywhere further. I always come back to the roots, to tradition, and try to create a new start. And as a result, I always can find the answer sooner or later. You know, if something's not happening, just take your time, relax, go back to tradition, and you will find your answer by practicing those lines, which slowly becoming melodies, and slowly becoming melodies go into composition. That's basically my explanation how I write my music. First of all, I find my sound, then I practice patterns, lines, small transcription phrases. It's material I'm practicing. But those patterns, lines, pentatonics, and transcription phrases mixed up together, and you start to cook your own phrases, your own lines, your own patterns based on those materials. But one very important thing, you must love every single phrase which you practice, which you collect. Let's say I transcribe Freddie Hubbard phrase from 1961 album, not because I have to, but because I fell in love with this phrase, because it's unbelievably beautiful. And I learned this phrase as a result in many other keys, sometimes in every key. Take a phrase Clifford Brown, learn in every key because it's so beautiful, you can't live without it. That's how much you love this phrase. Same as Michael Brecker, same as John Coltrane. You transcribe, I have a book with my transcriptions which I collected slowly, you know, getting bigger and bigger because I collect those little phrases. In the beginning I was transcribing whole solos, but I realized I don't need to transcribe whole solo. Just transcribe one phrase which you're really good, you're going to remember for the rest of your life. And that's my way of practicing. Transcribe one phrase, you remember this phrase forever. You start your routine, you start your exercises, daily exercises, long tones, you play this phrase, and this phrase leads you to some other things. And every day, this same phrase can lead you to some different things because this phrase is so beautiful, it's like a growing flower. Same as the patterns. I don't like to learn patterns from the book. You know, so many books. But I like to transcribe those patterns from Coltrane or Michael. And by practicing those patterns on trumpet, it's not easy, but possible. So when you merge your favorite transcription phrase from Freddie Hubbard from the 60s and pattern of Michael Brecker from 2000, you both love, you love both of those episodes equally, absolutely equally. When you merge them together and start cooking, that's when you hear some magic happen. That's when you start developing your own voice in the first place. You love what you do, and come back to topic of this question, composition. That's when you start to compose for real, by merging all this beautiful melody and live with this for an hour, 2 hours, take a break, do it again, again. End of the day, if you have a goal, end of the day you're gonna have 1 or 2 beautiful melodies which may lead you to some idea of composition. It's pretty much all my original composition came out this way. And of course, by playing with Dave Holland, I fell in love with those grooves. A lot of his composition based on grooves and vamps and some kind of a rhythmical episodes which continuous loops. And by playing with him, a lot of composition like that, if you check out Dave Holland Big Band with Billy Kilson, Dave Holland and Steve Nelson, check out those grooves. They're really super beautiful and musical. So if you listen to my music, I'm not hiding it. I'm not stole those grooves from him, but I got those grooves under my skin, and I start composing this way as a result. So my melodic ideas come from the phrases and patterns, from my favorite patterns. My groove ideas come from Dave Holland, let's say, and my harmonic ideas mostly come from my love of Brazilian music, let's say, which is my favorite source. Listening a lot of Toninho and Gismonti and Hermeto give you so much harmonic ideas. I'm not talking about get those, install those ideas and put it into your music, but like I said, when you love something, you always mix it up with what you already have, and it really gives you huge help to compose. And of course, I'm not a genius composer. Sometimes it takes me a long time, and I take some time, but on the end, I kind of see the goal where I'm going. So that's my answer. That's basically I answer how I practice in a daily basis. That's what I do every day. Of course, I do some physical exercises with my trumpet. It's a physical instrument, and then I do what I just said. I try to get all those phrases. I pick up it's like you open jewelry box. Okay, I want to pick up this phrase today and work on it. It's going to be my departure point. And most important, you could be free with mixing whatever you want, experiment with whatever you want, but the most important rules I have for myself, and I learned it from my heroes. You must be in time. Your 8 notes should be equally as perfect as possible. Not perfect, but equally. You should play with a metronome or any other rhythmical device, not all the time, but for me, I like to do that. So I put myself into restrictions and try to compose improvisation using those elements. Try to be free, try to go in different direction, but at the same time I have a restriction. I put myself in a form with a metronome, check my triplets or 8 notes, they must be equal. And that's how my days goes.